Hey y'all, hey, welcome to 2D Talk Sense. How y'all doing today? Come on in here, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on all social media, 2D Talk Sense, no spaces, because I talk and run on, so I made my name just one all together, a run on, okay? So come on in here. I know we got some new people, we got some old people. For the new people, oh, wait. No. Okay, I got a message. For the new people, I know y'all are in here and y'all trying to figure out what accent is that. I don't know. I don't know, y'all. This is a urban country, Chicago born and raised by way of Mississippi accent, okay? So come on in here. This is not a political analyst channel. This is where we talk about what we see, and we have the kitchen talk, front porch talk, barbershop talk. We talk about it in a regular layman's term. So everything that's been going on in the news, in the media, is this unwar that the U.S. didn't enter into, because they say it's not a war, but it looks like one. You feel me? So come on, y'all, let's discuss. We finna discuss that. First of all, let me tell everybody thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Like the video. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Let me give you a minute, because like my mama say, you don't come to nobody's house and not speak. So go ahead, say hi in them comments and hit that subscribe button. And let me thank you in advance.
Thank you. You love me. You really love me.
So I found this very interesting video of this professor that they had on, it was either Democracy Now! Or CNN. I don't remember exactly. But the reason why this professor is becoming popular is because before Trump won the election, he had three predictions. He predicted that Trump will win the election. He predicted that Trump will put us in a war with Iran, even though this is not a war. He predicted that, and he predicted that the U.S. would lose the war with Iran. Now, me as an American citizen who reside here in the U.S., I said, what does that mean to us if we lose? So that's why I've been very interested in it. So I wanted to bring it to y'all so y'all can watch what I watch, and y'all can give me y'all opinion on how y'all feel about it. So first, I want to go through his predictions, and I'm going to show y'all that. Then I want to go through, to me, he simplified what he feel like this war is about. And I want to say it's about a 30-minute video, and how he feel like the war is going to go. And some of it is happening right now. What he said would happen is happening right now. So let's first go through his predictions. Those three predictions of Trump will win the war, start a war with Iran, and the reasons why he feel like the U.S. would lose these. Let me bring it up, you guys. And today it's gonna be, I'm gonna try to make it as smooth as possible, but this video may be a little long because I want us to go through the details, and I want us to, drop down and talk about it, and y'all tell me y'all opinion on what he say. I'm gonna tell y'all my opinion, and I'm gonna show you a couple of different news clips, maybe, of what's happening right now. Because before I got on, I also seen that Iran is doing a very dropping a lot of missiles right now, and that's what's going on CNN, which tied in into what he said about missiles, about Iran missiles, and the price comparison. So I'm going to give y'all a little bit, but I don't want to go into it too much because I don't want to double talk. So one of the reasons that he was saying that Iran has an advantage in this war, I think he gave 2 to 3, but one of the reasons is the cost of the war. Now, the U.S. was in their military was known to be a superpower and a great military because we had the most advanced technology, and we spent millions and millions, billions of dollars on our technology. So the U.S. is pretty much the protector for Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and different spots that the U.S. in the Middle East that the U.S. have embassies and base in. Now, what is going on right now, just comparing it math wise, that the US got all these millions of dollars for this high technology, for this advanced technology, but Iran is getting their missiles through on a fraction of the cost. So Iran missiles cost maybe $50,000. And the US have these radar detectors that cost $1 million for each one that they shoot up to catch missiles, right? And all the time before this, it was working. But Iran got these $50,000 missiles that they're shooting through that are getting through, that the US is setting up 10 missiles, 10 of the radar things, which is $10 million. And that $50,000 missile is getting through and still causing damage. So that's one thing he talked about. So when I just got on right now, I see CNN reporting of I believe they're called cluster missiles, because even when you shoot them down, they already disperse a bunch of other bombs that they release. And so you shoot down one, it's still all these other ones. And that's what they pay $50,000 for. So just in math alone, this professor is saying, hey, the US may run out of money, and then they don't have to keep this technology up. It's not like these companies with this $1 million technology can make them on demand like that, where Iran has been pretty much preparing for this for 20 years and got thousands of these missiles already. So, we're finna go over this professor and his predictions. Oh, I'm probably gonna have to rewind it. This professor and his predictions. So hopefully y'all can hear it. Let me.
YouTube channel, Predictive History. He uses game theory to analyze past, current, and to predict future geopolitical events. And he joins us now. Professor, great to have you.
Good to see you, sir.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. So, for people who aren't familiar with your work, I wanted to show folks that back in 2024, you made 3 big predictions. 1, that Trump would win. 2, that he would start a war with Iran. And 3, that the U.S. would lose that war. Let's take a listen to that.
In this class this semester, I'm making 3 big predictions, right? First is that Trump will win in November. Second is that the United States will go to war against Iran. And the third big prediction is that the United States will lose this war, which will forever change the global order.
So obviously that last one is the only one that has not yet come to fruition. Is quite a stunning prediction. Do you stand by it, and what have you seen so far that leads you to sort of stand firm in that conclusion?
So given my analysis of how the war is progressing, I think that Iran has many more advantages over the United States. The reality is that right now, it's a war of attrition between the United States and Iran. And the Iranians have been preparing 20 years for this conflict. In their eschatology, in their religion, this is a war against the great Satan. They've had many practice runs. Last June was a 12-day war when the Iranians were able to examine and analyze the strike capacities of both the Israelis and the Americans. And they've had a lot of time, 8 months, to prepare fully for this new attack. They, through their proxies, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Shia militias, have been able to really grasp the American mentality, and now they have a pretty good strategy of how to weaken and ultimately destroy the American empire.
So when he said the Houthis, let me say that it was just reported this morning that yesterday, and I believe he's going to talk about it, that yesterday that they believe that Iran had help from the Houthis with these miners, is what they call. There was missiles that's like buried into this body of water. There's a body of water that most of the oil and goods go through in order to get to the rest of the world. But Iran controls it. So they said they had the help of the Houthis, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right. And they have bombed 3 ships over there. So they pretty much got control and not letting anybody through. So when he said that, I just want to bring y'all to current, because this was, let's see. Let me see how long ago this was. This video. 9 days ago. So I know as of yesterday, it's been alleged that Iran does have the help. It's been reported that they suspecting that the Houthis is helping Iran in control of that strip that ships are allowed to go through. So I'm gonna let him continue. All right,
Remember college?
So of course, there's our commercials. So I should have probably waited until the commercial was over to talk through the commercial. But as I said, we're gonna go through this together. But let him continue.
So what the Iranians are doing is they're waging war against the entire global economy. And so they are striking the GCC countries. And not only are they striking GCC countries, American bases, but they're going after the critical energy infrastructure of these bases. They blocked off the Strait of Hormuz. And eventually, they will go after the water desalination plants, which is the lifeblood of these nations because they don't have fresh water supply. In fact, the water desalination plants provide 60% of the GCC's water supply. So if a drone, and these drones cost $50,000, if they wiped out a desalination plant in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and it's a city of 10 million people, right? They'd be out of water in 2 weeks.
Wow.
In 2 weeks.
Wow.
And right now, the Iranians have de facto closed off the Strait of Hormuz, and the GCC gets 90% of its food from the Strait of Hormuz. So I know a lot of people are talking about the disruptions.
Hormuz, that's what I was just talking about. That stretch of water that Iran have taken control of. I seen the reports this morning. Y'all can drop down in the comments and let me know if that have changed. But as of this morning, that they have taken control of. And today, I am pre-recording. Today is March 11th. So when I woke up this morning, I was seeing reports that Iran took control of the Strait of Hormuz. So
global economy. But right now, the Iranians are actually threatening the very existence of Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar. And why this is important is that the Gulf states are really the linchpin of the American economy. So what they do is they sell petrodollars and then they recycle the petrodollars back into the American economy.
So we're going to go over, he has a video, it's 30 minutes of explaining the petrodollar. And he does a very detailed explanation of the petrodollar. I will give you forewarning. This is just him talking. This won't be, usually I'll show the news article and show you the facts of it. This is just this professor talking. So you can take it, you can leave it, but I feel like it is interesting. That's why I am bringing it to you guys.
Economy through the investments in the stock market. And right now, we know that the entire American economy is propped up by AI investments in data centers. And a lot of that comes from the Gulf states. So if the Gulf states are no longer able to sell oil, and they're no longer able to finance AI, this AI bubble in the United States, then this AI bubble will burst, and with it will burst as well the entire American economy, which is really a financial Ponzi scheme.
Right.
So that's a dire situation that the Americans are facing right now.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, sir, and Amazon.
So what he's pretty much breaking down is that America economy is pretty much reliant right now. The bulk of American money is AI money. The AI money comes from these people in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, and everything that comes from, they get their money from oil. They're using oil money to finance the AI money. So he's saying that Iran is going to stop the oil money, which is in turn going to affect the AI money. So America financial is going to be in a disarray. That's what it breaks down to. So, and I'm like, this is, to me, this is what I put this channel up for, because I feel like if you're watching this stuff and all these words and everything on TV, like sometimes the meaning will go over your head because you're like, okay, break it down for me. So I'm like, I like to come over here to break it down, to be like, hey, what he said was, what had happened was, because some people like to talk like that. Some people don't like this channel because I talk like that. But I am for the people who wants to know what's going on, but don't want to deal with a word salad to have to figure it out. So that's pretty much what he said.
Data center was literally hit in the UAE. And now, of course, big tech companies, which were looking at the UAE as a major potential data center investment hub with cheap and abundant energy, probably going to be rethinking that. We also wanted to talk to you about munitions. We can put this next one up.
So he said Amazon was just looking at to buy space there that just got bombed. So now they ain't looking there no more because it just got bombed. And now other people who probably was gonna have their data center there for all this AI is probably not gonna look there anymore because they are in a war and they are getting bombed. So that's what he said. Like, it's already starting to affect data centers and where AI centers and things would be, that Iran is already starting to bomb those places.
Here on the screen, the United States is racing to accomplish Iran mission before munitions run out. This is specifically around interceptor math. There's a famous video just from yesterday in Israel, which shows a single Iranian ballistic missile, which is being targeted by some 11 different interceptors, all of which miss. Most of those come from the United States, not to mention all of the different bases, the GCC countries that you just talked about, and the asymmetry.
Now, I'm sorry to keep interrupting y'all, but I want to make sure that we don't get lost up in here while they doing all this talking. That's what I was just talking about earlier. Those 11 interceptors that missed roughly cost, it's alleged to cost maybe around $1 million each. Where this $55,000 thing that Iran bombed, that Iran sending over, these $1 million ones missed. They sent up 10 of them. That's $10 million, and it missed. And this $55,000 bomb that Iran put over still got through and got past all these millions of dollars of interceptors that America and Israel has out there. So
Asymmetry of the cost. It's $1 million for a missile, tens of millions per interceptor in some of these cases. With these munitions running out, how does that change the global picture? So you're in China, obviously, much of the stocks in Asia of the United States are likely to have to be cannibalized if this were to go on. How is that going to affect the global picture here?
Right. So my first point is that the United States military is not designed to fight a 21st century war. Remember, the military-industrial complex came to being after World War II, and it was designed to fight the Cold War. And the Cold War was really about muscle flexing, about who was able to send people up into space, who was the first to get the person on the moon, who had the more complex missile systems. And so the entire American military strategy revolves around very sophisticated technology that costs a lot of money to build. And that's what the American air defense system is basically. And that's why we're seeing this asymmetry, as you point out, in this war, where you have these $1 million missiles trying to take out these $50,000 drones. And it's not sustainable in the long term. And so what we're seeing is really the puncturing of the aura of invincibility and invisibility that sustained American hegemony for the past 20 years, especially after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And this is really a reordering of not just the global economy, because this signals the collapse of the petrodollar, and with it, the entire US dollar-based reserve currency system, but also the global hegemony of the United States. We're moving towards a multipolar world.
What he's pretty much saying there is that Iran is putting a hole in America armor, where America was known as the leader of the um pretty much army. We had the most mass army, we had the best army, and it has been that way since World War II. And nobody pretty much challenged us since then because you don't want them problems. It says one more person trying to stop me. It's gonna be some dreadheads waiting at your lobby. You don't want them problems with us. They said that's who America was. They was like, you know what I'm saying? They was the big bad wolf. That you look, you don't go with the big bad wolf. And they didn't have, but we didn't have the same military as far as advancing technology, spending all this money in our military where people are just like, yeah, nah, we don't want to mess with them. But Iran is using a fraction of the money and now is showing the world with us setting up these intersectors that cost $1 million to sometimes tens of millions of dollars for one. And they are getting this $55,000 droid through that's causing damage. And it's just showing the world that, you know, they can bleed. But they say, is this your hero? What do you say, Black Panther? This your king? This your king? They said that's what Iran right now is doing to them, because it's not like, yes, Iran is taking a toll as far as they I believe they have a higher death toll, but them showing televising that this $55,000 missile got through over all these millions of dollars is putting a hole in the defense that America has the best military. That's what he just said. And then where we're getting our money from, which is from the countries that has the oil. America is pretty much paid to protect those countries. That is, it's putting a little, it's putting a little dink up in there where them countries are like, what are we paying you for? Because these are $55,000 missiles are still getting through. So what's up? That's what he said.
Professor, this morning, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth was asked a question about potential ground troops in Iran. He refused to rule out that possibility. And he said, oh, well, we're not going to project to you what we will or will not do, but we don't want to, rule anything out. We will do what it takes. Do you think that America will end up invading Iran from the ground, since it's already becoming relatively clear they won't be able to accomplish the goal of regime change or even regime collapse using just air power alone?
Right. So everyone says that the worst calamity that could happen in the United States is if it were to send ground troops into Iran. At the same time, the United States are committed to regime change in Iran. We've never had a precedent in history where you were able to regime change from the air alone. You need ground troops. And so unfortunately, what's going to happen over the next few months is that pressure will build on America to send ground troops, especially from the GCC countries and from Israel, which are being pouted right now by the Iranians. So remember that if the GCC countries, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, Bahrain, if they go, then the petrodollar goes with them. So the Americans need to protect these countries, and these countries are going to demand that either the Americans bribe the Iranians to cease, and this is like $5 trillion in indemnity, okay? Or send ground troops to wipe out the Iranian threat once and for all. And I know.
Now, he's not the first person I heard say that. Hell, I haven't heard anybody say that we can win this unwar without ground troops. Everybody, the retired colonel, anybody in the retired service, there's a man, Lawrence, and I can't remember his last name, but he was in the Bush administration. He was there during all the Afghanistan, and when they made it legal to torture people. He was there, and he just did an interview. He said the exact same thing. There's no way to win this war without putting boots on the ground. I believe if you're watching the news, you see that Trump have hinted to putting groups on the ground, and Hegseth have came and said, well, we're not there yet. We're not going to talk about that yet because it's very unpopular. Because if you remember, they get all this talking about how when Obama came and he pulled all the people from out of Afghanistan, how that was horrible, but how we needed to get out of this war. We shouldn't have been in the war in the first place. A lot of Americans didn't agree with the war when Bush did it. And Trump ran on that he's the president of America's first. And I just seen a clip that when JD Vance was talking about, no, we're not going to be over in other countries and involving ourselves in other country business and getting involved in another war. The U.S. is going to look out for the U.S. and take care of the U.S. But they ran on that. Now we're not in another war, according to them. But now we're dropping bombs, and there's a possibility of boots on the ground in another country. So he's not the first person that I heard say that. He's not the second, but that seems to be the consensus. And it seems like we can't get a clear answer from the administrators, from the Trump administration, whether or not we're going to put boots on the ground. So take it for what you will.
That there's no political will for ground troops to be used against Iran among the American people. But remember that 78% of American people was against initial strikes against Iran in the first place.
Right. And one of the things that really comes into question, I think, with all of this, sir, when we're looking at the geopolitical picture and the sacrificing in much of this from the United States on behalf of Israel, is kind of a question as to who and what wanted this. We were actually curious for your view on a disputed report here from the Washington Post. We can put it up here on the screen, F3. A push from the Saudis. Israel helped move Trump to attack Iran. Now, this has been internally disputed by Saudi Arabia, saying that they did not push the Trump administration to attack Iran. However, this is clearly an authorized leak from our own government, trying to at least lay some of the blame on behalf of the GCC. What do you make of this analysis and of this narrative that Saudi Arabia was also trying to be behind this push to bomb Iran?
So I've always argued.
So what he said there, let's break that down, y'all. Because like I said, this is a channel where we're going to break it down to regular ass talk. Not all these sophisticated and properly, spoke out words. No, we're going to break it down to what he just said. What he just said was that now that they done did this shit, everybody like, why the fuck did this happen? And he's saying that now the Trump administration, because people are like, why is we fighting Israel war? The Trump administration is now saying, well, it was also Saudi Arabia them too, who's told us that we need to get up into this war. So that's why it wasn't just Israel. Israel don't control me. I be talking when I get in the car. Like Saudi Arabia said too that we need to get in the war. And Saudi Arabia, like, my name Bennett, I ain't in it. We ain't telling them shit. That's what's going on right now.
Argue that both Saudi Arabia and Israel are heavily invested in regime change in Iran. Yeah. In fact, Saudi Arabia sees Iran as much more of an existential crisis than Israel. Because remember, Israel still has nuclear weapons, and Israel is a very diverse, very sophisticated economy, whereas Saudi Arabia is completely reliant on oil. And it's always had problems with Iran because Iran is a theocracy opposed to the Saudi monarchy. Iran funds and equips the Houthis, which have been antagonistic towards Saudi Arabia for the longest time. And right now, the Saudi economy is suffering. It's been trying to pivot towards more of a tourist economy. That's why they brought in Ronaldo. That's why they're switching to e-gaming. That's why they're building something called a line, NEOM. And all these things are not working out. So they need to be able to control the oil resources of the entire Middle East if they are to survive and thrive as a nation. So
what he's saying now is that what's going on is Saudi got financial problems because all their money comes from oil, and Iran can kind of control oil coming in and out. So Saudi then tried to get e-gaming and stuff, and that's probably why y'all see all them ads for betting and stuff. But I ain't saying that. But he said, but everything they done tried ain't working. And so they ops, the Hadi, and I'm sorry if I am pronouncing it wrong, but they ops, the one that I just told you about that was in that that they are assuming is helping Iran, they ops is with Iran. So they got problems with Iran anyway because they friends with their ops. And so that's why Saudi is on the side of Israel, because enemy of my enemy is my friend type of thing.
Believe that this reporting is credible, even though it does make Saudi Arabia look bad. But remember, Saudi Arabia says that they wanted peace, but they are helping the Israelis and Americans attack Iran right now because they're allowing the Israelis and Americans to use Saudi airspace.
So help us understand, because it still feels to me like there's some
Yeah,
pieces.
and what he said is like Saudi's trying to be like my name Bennett and I ain't in it, but they underhandedly helping Israel and America, even though they say they want peace. They like, yeah, y'all can go ahead and use my backyard because you know them to stay across the alley, but don't tell them y'all done came from my backyard. This is what he said.
That don't totally add up. You had, in advance of this war on Iran, you had top military brass up to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying, this is a really bad idea. We are not ready for this. All the math on the interceptors that's been talked about for months at this point. And yet Trump still decided to go ahead. What is the calculus that he was making here that led him to take what already appears to be catastrophic actions?
Right. Okay. So this is the key question. Why do they do this? I think there are three possibilities. Okay.
I was just finna pause it and say what's the word salad she's saying is that everybody was like, man, don't do that. But he still did it. And she's like, why he do that? Everybody advised him against it. They was like, that ain't a good idea. They some beast over there. Like, this ain't finna be easy like with Venezuela. Like, we finna have to put in some work. This ain't worth it right now. We don't need to be getting in another war. Don't do that bullshit. And she was like, but he still chose to do that bullshit. So why he do that bullshit? That's the question.
And I think all three possibilities are valid. The first is the idea of hubris. If you look at history, this is how empires behave. So the Mindoro kidnapping was quick, successful, and it was adrenaline rush for Trump. And that made him overconfident in the capacity of the American military. Okay, so hubris is a factor, and we see this throughout history. Why did Hitler invade Stalin? Because he conquered Europe really easily, and he thought it was invincible, right? And that led to the destruction of the German army in the Soviet Union. So hubris is a factor. Then you have to look at internal political calculus, where even though America does not benefit.
Okay, so hubris is excessive pride or self-confidence. So he was like, because of what they did over there in Venezuela, he was feeling himself. That's what hubris is. He was feeling himself, and he thought he was gonna do that same shit over here in Iran, but it ain't that sweet. That's what he's saying.
From this war against Iran, Trump himself personally benefits. Why? Because the Saudis and Israelis are bribing him to attack Iran. Remember that the Saudis invested $2 billion in the private equity fund of Jared Kushner, who is the son-in-law of Donald Trump. And the Israelis, through Miriam Adelson, have been financing Trump's political career, right? So Miriam Adelson, a few months back, said that she will put up $250 million if Trump were to run a third term. So Trump is getting a lot of financial and political.
He said Trump is benefiting hand over fist with this because of the people that in charge of Israel and Saudi Arabia are the people who, those are the millionaires. Those are the ones who's paying for his campaign. Those are the ones who said, like, if he run a third term, which is illegal, we don't give a, we behind that. We making money. He making money. Everybody except us. All you millionaires, everybody gets millions. So yeah, we gonna support him. And so he's saying that that's part of the reason why Trump, that could be a reason why he decided to go on in with this war, because he got to help his friends so his friends could keep making money so he can keep making money.
Support from the Saudis and Israelis. Also remember that if this war goes sideways and Trump is forced to use ground troops, he will probably get approval from Congress, and this will give him emergency war powers, which will allow him to influence the midterms. So Trump is thinking about a third term. And I think at the ballot box, he probably won't get it. But if there's a war going on and you can delay elections and you have emergency war powers and people rally around the flag, then he probably will get a third term. And the last factor that is very important is the eschatological factor, where if you look at the Epstein files,
we have talked about this before, that Trump have been said from the beginning that if we was in a war, it's like, I don't know about running for a third term, but my people tell me that if we're in a war, then I can delay the elections. That's what he's talking about. That everybody have said it. It's been all in the news that if there's a war, then Trump could use a power where he delay the election and he could remain president instead of doing the election and getting somebody else elected. We talked about it before.
Clear that we are run by secret societies. It's clear that the world is run by these individuals who have a lot of power. We don't know who they are, but they control the military. They control the national security apparatus. And these people, there are different names for these people. You can call them the Illuminati. And the Illuminati are composed of three major groups, okay? You have the Jesuits, who control the Vatican. You have the Septine Frankists, which control the modern state of Israel today. And you have the Freemasons, which control the national security apparatus of the United States. And
now let me see if he said the Illuminati control the Vatican, it's the Freemasons, and then it's the portion that controls the United States. So he's saying there's three portions of the Illuminati. Y'all is learning this information with me. I'm not the one I haven't looked up Illuminati in the details, and I know there's a whole conspiracy about it and how everybody in Hollywood is connected to it. I don't know the details about it because I never looked into it. But so we're listening to this together. Drop down in the comments. Let me know if y'all believe in the Illuminati and what y'all feel about it and who y'all think had to with it. Because he brought up the Epstein files and he's connecting the Epstein's files to what he's talking about now.
They believe that Israel, this war in the Middle East, is key to the end times in creating heaven on earth. So it's almost like a script that they're following, even though it doesn't make any geopolitical sense. Okay, so I would say that these three are the best reasons why this is happening.
Wow. Well, sir, I hope you come back. This was very informative, I think, for both of us. We deeply appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
So, and I want to show y'all the most recent video that was made. And I'm going to let this play while I'm pulling up the most recent video. This is CNN Live. So we can try to keep, this is on the way.
These strikes, all of that still very much uncertain as related to timeline, but at least that's what I'm hearing a lot of this messaging is coming from.
Elena Trine, thank you very much for breaking it all down for us there from the White House. Good to see you, Elena. Well, I want to take us into the region now and a closer look at the flashpoint of the Strait of Hormuz. As we've been mentioning throughout in the show, the Strait is a key transit route carrying roughly 1/5 of global crude oil shipments. And for countries along the Persian Gulf, as you can see, this is an increasingly unstable time. Our Nick Robertson is in Kuwait and has more details for you.
Kuwait's right at the top of the Gulf here, but the Strait of Hormuz, about 500 miles to the south, is as important to them as it is to all the other Gulf countries, because their oil, just like the UAE's oil, just like Saudi's oil, just like Qatar's oil, if it goes by ship, needs to go out through the Strait of Hormuz. Fishermen I've been talking to here have been telling us they're seeing far few tankers out on the sea because the tankers just aren't trying to get through. One of the difficulties that the United States faces in trying to take down the Iranian Navy in that area, the Strait of Hormuz, that we've witnessed, that I've seen back in.
So let me try to enlarge this. And this is what I was talking about, the Strait of Hormuz. And I hope I'm saying it right, but you see Iran. I don't know if y'all can see my, let me see if y'all can, no, let me try to make that bigger. Yeah. So Iran is right there, right above that red is Iran. Right below the red, this little part that's in the blue, that's the Strait of Hormuz. And they are Iran is taking control, have bombed 3 ships, I want to say, 3 ships over in that area. And that is stopping the flow of oils and other goods to get through.
In 2019 here, the Iranians used just fishing boats with a few people on board who can stick magnetic mines to tankers, just a few tankers, and those mines explode, they disable the tankers, they create that pressure point that we're beginning to see now strengthening on the Strait of Hormuz. So even taking out Iran's navy will still leave these much harder to catch fishing boats with just a couple of operatives in them trying to stop all that oil getting through. Another perhaps detail worth considering here, of course, the Houthis in Yemen are a proxy of Iran, and the Houthis in Yemen over the past couple of years have been targeting oil tankers in the Red Sea, the other side of the Arabian Peninsula. They've been doing it with missiles, they've been doing it with small fishing boats, they've also been doing it with unmanned boats, sort of water drones, if you will. So the Iranians have a lot of expertise in trying to bring pressure to bear on that strategic, important choke point. Talking to people here, no one in Kuwait really has a sense, pretty much like everyone else in the Gulf, how long this war will last. But what they do know is that the Iranians have a lot of experience targeting the Strait of Hormuz, have likely been preparing for it strategically, preparing munitions close to where they're going to need them. All of that speaks to a potentially drawn-out conflict. Nick Robertson, CNN, Kuwait.
Okay, yeah. So that was live from CNN right now. I want to. I'm trying to get it done. Okay, so that was CNN live. What's going on right now? So I want to take you to this professor, and we're going to talk about the petrodollar. He's going to talk about the petrodollars. This is a 30-minute video, and he's going to tell us, pretty much explain the petrodollar, because I will give you a basic breakdown, but to me, he explains it better. So that's why we're going through the whole video. But the petrodollar, what pretty much happened is that, and I didn't know this, that the U.S., and like I like this channel because I don't know everything, and I get to tell y'all what I don't know. Y'all get to tell me stuff that y'all know. Y'all get to educate me too, because just because I don't know it don't mean y'all didn't know it. Y'all probably already knew it. It's just me. You like, girl, you ain't know that? No, I did not. But what had happened was one of the big ways that, besides slavery, one of the big ways that America became the superpower is that after World War II, there was an agreement put into place that pretty much it kind of reminds you of the mafia. But it's like the U.S. said, we ain't even got oil, but the U.S. told all the other oil people, like, we're going to protect y'all. We're going to protect y'all access. We're going to protect y'all land. We're going to let y'all oil get back and forth through. And what we ask for is that you can only trade oil in U.S. money. That's how U.S. money remain as valuable as what it is, because I don't care where the oil is coming from or where is it going. China, Germany, Australia, Canada, we don't care. You got to pay for it in U.S. money. So they have to trade through the U.S. They have to get U.S. dollars. That's how we able to loan. That's why we got this deficit what it is, because people are like, yeah, we'll get it back. We'll get it back because of the value of our dollar. So that's what the petrodollar is. And it's through U.S. currency. And the thing that why I say it relates to the mafia is just like, in the mafia movies, they go to the neighborhoods and go to the local businesses, like, you're going to pay us for your protection. So that's pretty much what the U.S. did. But now the problem is they like, well, these companies are going to be looking like, why we going to be using U.S. money? Y'all can't even protect our oil. We can't get our oil to and from right now because y'all ain't protecting Iran over here blowing our shit up or taking our ships or whatever. So it may come a time where the U.S. will lose that stand, because they're going to be like, well, we're going to go through somebody else and start using another form of currency because y'all ain't doing what y'all supposed to do. That is the big thing. So I'm going to go through and he's going to explain petrodollars. Like I said, this is 28 minutes and 27 seconds. He does a better job and he'll break it down in all the nice talks that you guys like. So let's go ahead and see that. I'm going to bring that up and let him explain it to you guys. This is from his channel, and it's called the Petrodollar Game Theory: Why Iran-Israel War Could Reshape U.S. Power. And y'all could go subscribe to his channel because he got a lot of videos. Let me add this to the scene. Okay. Here we go, y'all.
In the Middle East that could destroy the one system keeping America the most powerful country on earth. And no, I'm not talking about the military. I'm not talking about aircraft carriers or nuclear weapons or fighter jets. I am talking about something way more powerful than all of that combined. I am talking about the petrodollar. See, most people look at the Iran-Israel conflict and they think this is about religion. They think this is about territory. They think this is about who launched what missile at who, but that is the surface. That is the movie playing on your screen, while the real plot is happening behind the curtain. Because what is actually at stake right now is the financial system that has kept the United States dollar at the center of the entire global economy for over 50 years. 50 years. And right now, that system is cracking. The math is breaking. The geography is shifting. And the craziest part, most people have absolutely no idea it is even happening. They are watching the explosions on the news. They are watching the political speeches. They are picking sides. And meanwhile, the actual game, the real game, the one that determines who controls the global economy for the next century, that game is being played right underneath their feet. So today, I am going to break this down for you. Not the version you see on CNN, not the version you see on Twitter, the real version. The version that is about money, oil, game theory, and the future of American power itself. Let me say this one more time so it really sinks in. The war between Iran and Israel is not just a military conflict. On the surface, yes, it looks like one. You see the missiles, you see the drone strikes, you see the retaliations, but underneath all of that, what is actually happening is an economic war. It is an attack on the financial engine that powers American global dominance. And this is not some conspiracy theory. This is not speculation. This is game theory. This is geography. This is cold, hard, brutal math. When you strip away the noise, when you strip away the media coverage and the political talking points, what you are left with is a calculated strategic assault on the system.
And speaking of the media coverage, this is not going to be in today's video, but I did see that, and y'all drop down in the comments, let me know if this is true, that all the news that is coming out of Israel, like what we see now on the news, you see a lot of bombings and things that's in Iran that they are putting on, that they say, you know, the Iran, we just sunk their Navy ships. You see all this bombing, the bombings of the schools, the bombings of the hospital in Iran. So you're like, what is going on in Israel? Like, is there damage? What are they damaged? Yeah, what's their damage? I should phrase it. What's their damage? And what is being said is that every TV station that broadcasts out of Israel had to sign a contract that says they will not publicize, like, pretty much the devastation that's going on there. So America won't really know what's happening in Israel because they signed in this contract. It was saying because, you know, it would give away political, not political, but it would give away war strategy. It would, you know, it's like it did a cover like that, like, oh, you can't tell what's going on here or what bombs they hit and where they hit at because we don't want the enemy to know, type of thing. So they said every TV station that's AV television, I want to say is the name of it, I'm not sure, but they all signed that contract. They said you will never hear them talk about it, them signing that contract, but they all had to sign that contract in order to broadcast from out of Israel. But I'm just, so how's the war truly going? Can we know? I don't know. Drop down in the comments, let me know what y'all think.
That allows the United States to borrow trillions of dollars, fund the largest military in human history, and maintain influence in every single corner of the globe. That system has a name. It is called the petrodollar system. And if you do not understand how it works, then you cannot understand why this war is happening, why it is happening now, and why the outcome of this conflict could reshape the entire global order for the rest of our lifetimes. So let me paint the picture for you. Right now, if you turn on any news channel in the world, here is what you are going to see. You are going to see footage of missiles flying through the sky. You're going to see explosions lighting up city skylines. You are going to see politicians standing behind podiums delivering carefully written speeches about security, sovereignty, and the right to self-defense. You are going to see military analysts drawing arrows on maps, talking about strike zones and interceptor systems and casualty reports, and all of that is real. I am not saying it is fake. Those things are happening. People are dying. Infrastructure is being destroyed. The human cost of this conflict is enormous, and it should not be ignored. But here's what I need you to understand. In geopolitics, the things you can see are almost never the full story. In fact, the visible stuff, the missiles, the explosions, the speeches, that is usually just the top layer. The real story is always underneath. The real story is about incentives. It is about who benefits and who loses. It is about economic structures that most people never think about because they were designed to be invisible. It is about geographic choke points that control the flow of the most important commodity on the planet. And it is about a financial system so deeply embedded into the global economy that most people do not even realize it exists until it starts to break. So when people ask the obvious question, why is this war happening right now? The answer is not as simple as these countries hate each other. Countries have hated each other for centuries. Hatred does not start wars. You know what starts wars? Strategic systems under pressure. Systems that are beginning to crack. And right now, one of the most powerful systems ever built in modern history is under more pressure than it has faced in decades. That system controls how oil is traded.
What if working from home didn't have to mean...
So I should maybe fast forward it for you guys to when he get into details about the petrodollar. But he gave all that introduction just to let you know how important the petrodollar is to the global economy.
It controls how money flows, and it controls who sits at the top of the global power structure. That is what this war is really about. So let me show you what is actually going on. But before I get into the war itself, before I talk about Iran's strategy, before I talk about the missiles and the drones and the Strait of Hormuz, I need you to understand one thing first. And this is the thing that most people get completely wrong about power. People think empires survive because of their armies. They think the United States is the most powerful country in the world because it has the biggest military, the most advanced weapons, the most aircraft carriers spread across every ocean. And yes, all of that is true. The American military is extraordinary, but here is the part they do not teach you. Military power alone has never sustained an empire, not once in history. Every empire that has ever lasted, every single one, had an economic system behind it, a financial structure, a money machine that kept the whole thing running. And in the case of the United States, that money machine is built on one thing, oil, and not American oil. The world's oil. And the way that oil connects to the American dollar is one of the most brilliant and most fragile systems ever designed. Let me explain. Here is how the system works. Oil is the single most important commodity in the global economy, bar none. There is nothing else that comes close. Every factory needs it. Every airplane needs it. Every shipping container crossing the ocean needs it. Every car, every truck, every military vehicle on the planet runs on it. Modern civilization, as we know it, does not function without oil. Now, here is the critical part. For over 50 years, almost all of the oil traded on the global market has been priced and sold in one currency, the United States dollar. Not the euro, not the yen, not the yuan, the dollar. Think about what that means for a second. If you are Japan and you need to buy oil from Saudi Arabia, you cannot pay in yen. You have to pay in dollars. If you are India and you need oil from the Gulf, you cannot pay in rupees. You have to pay in dollars.
That's what I was saying. I don't care where you are. You can't use your money to buy oil. You have to buy oil in U.S. dollars. When I heard this, I was like, that was brilliant. That was brilliant. Leave it to get the most money and do no work. That was brilliant. Like, that ain't even my shit, and I'm gonna get paid off of it. Brilliant.
If you are Germany, Brazil, South Korea, it does not matter. Every single country that needs oil, which is every country on Earth, must first acquire United States dollars before they can buy a single barrel. Now, what does that create? It creates something incredibly powerful. It creates constant, never-ending global demand for the American dollar. Every single day, countries around the world are buying dollars, holding dollars, and storing dollars in their reserves just so they can participate in the oil market. And that demand is the secret engine behind American economic power. Because when the entire world needs your currency, you can do things that no other country can do. You can print money without destroying its value, at least not immediately. You can borrow trillions of dollars at low interest rates because everyone wants to hold your debt. You can fund the largest military in human history and station it across every continent and every ocean on the planet. You can run trade deficits year after year after year, and the system keeps working because the demand for your currency never stops. But this system did not happen by accident. It was built, it was engineered through very deliberate alliances in the Middle East, specifically with the oil-producing states of the Persian Gulf. The deal was simple and it was genius. The Gulf states, led by Saudi Arabia, agreed to sell their oil exclusively in United States dollars. In return, the United States agreed to provide military protection, American bases, American weapons, American security guarantees. The Gulf countries got a shield. America got the financial backbone of its entire empire. That is the Petrodollar system. That is the invisible machine running underneath everything. And as long as that machine keeps running, the United States stays on top. But the moment someone threatens to break that machine, everything changes. And that is exactly what is happening right now. Now, here is where most people get this conflict completely wrong. When they watch the news, they think the war is between Iran and Israel. They think the battlefield is in Gaza or Lebanon or on Israeli soil. And yes, those are active fronts. Those are real places where real...
Let me pause this really quick. I just was looking it up just to see if the information that he gave was correct, because this is new to me. So just to show you what I Googled, it says... let me show you. I'm trying to make it bigger. Hopefully you guys can see that, but I'm gonna read it. I put in, did Gulf companies agree to sell oil only in US dollars? Historically, oil transactions has been predominantly conducted in US dollars, known as the petrodollar system. Gulf Company Cooperation Council, that's when you hear them say the GCC, that's Gulf Cooperation Council. Countries have largely maintained this practice to stabilize their economy. Some discussion has emerged about diversifying currency for oil sales, particularly with raising global economic shifts. Countries like Russia and China have expressed interest in trading oil in their own currency. However, as of now, the majority of oil sales from Gulf countries still occur in US dollars. Any significant change in this practice will require extensive geopolitical and economic consideration. So, yes, pretty much what he's saying is true. I just wanted to make sure I put that out there, that I did a little, we're going to do a little research and try to fact check as he go along. Let me put it back up so he can continue.
Real fighting is happening, but they are not the main event. The real battlefield, the one that actually matters in the grand scheme of things, is the Gulf. I am talking about Saudi Arabia. I am talking about the United Arab Emirates. I am talking about Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait. These are the places that matter most in this conflict, and most people do not even realize it. See, these countries are not just wealthy nations sitting on top of oil. They are critical nodes in the global financial system. They are the infrastructure of the petrodollar. The oil they produce, the money they generate, the investments they make, all of that flows directly into global markets and reinforces the dominance of the United States dollar. Take Dubai as an example. Dubai did not become a global city by accident. It was built on one thing above everything else: stability. Wealthy people from all over the world moved their money to Dubai because they believed it was safe. Businesses set up headquarters there because the region was stable. Investors poured billions into real estate, infrastructure, and financial markets because they trusted that American military power would keep the Gulf secure. The entire economic model of these Gulf states is built on the perception of safety, not just actual safety, the perception of it.
Do you know what eating banana can do to your liver? Bananas are actually edible when they're still green, but what many people...
Now imagine what happens when that perception starts to crack. Imagine investors watching missiles fly across the Gulf region. Imagine wealthy expatriates looking at the news and wondering if their families are safe. Imagine insurance companies recalculating risk for every cargo ship passing through the area. What happens? Capital runs. Money moves. Businesses start looking for the exit. And when capital flees the Gulf, it does not just hurt Dubai or Riyadh or Doha. It weakens the entire financial ecosystem that the petrodollar is built on. The oil revenue slows down, the investments dry up, the recycling of dollars through global markets starts to break down. And this is where Iran's real strategy becomes terrifying, because Iran is not trying to beat the United States in a straight-up military fight. They know they cannot do that. No country on earth can match the American military in a direct conventional war. Iran knows this. So instead of fighting the machine, they are attacking the fuel that powers the machine. They are going after the economic foundations. They are targeting the Gulf. They are targeting the perception of stability. They are trying to make the entire region feel unsafe.
But he's saying that I hear it a lot, like you cut off the head of the snake, another one grows back. So he said Iran not doing that. What they already know is that can't nobody beat America as far as military-wise, Navy-wise, Air Force, whatever you want to throw at us, we got it. It's, so what they're going to do is, what they're trying to do is cut them off as far as money. And they're going to hit them pockets instead of trying to hit them in the face. That's like hitting Mike Tyson in the face. He just going to take one and, throw you his other face because he crazy. It's like, no, they don't stand a chance fighting military-wise. What they're going to try to do is starve them financially. That's what he said here.
Unpredictable and risky. And if they succeed, even partially, the financial damage could be far greater than anything a missile could ever do to a military base. Now let me show you why geography makes this whole situation even more dangerous. Because when we talk about the Gulf region, we are not just talking about countries and cities. We are talking about one of the most important geographic choke points on the entire planet. It is called the Strait of Hormuz. And if you do not know what the Strait of Hormuz is, you need to learn, because this single narrow waterway might be the most strategically important piece of geography in the modern world. Here is what it is. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow passage of water that connects the Persian Gulf to the open ocean. In some places, it is only about 50 kilometers wide. That is it, 50 kilometers. And through this tiny corridor, roughly 20% of the entire world's oil supply passes every single day, 20%. That means 1 out of every 5 barrels of oil consumed on this planet travels through this one narrow choke point. Countries like India, China, Japan, South Korea, and dozens of others depend on oil shipments that come through this route. If that route gets disrupted, if ships cannot pass safely, the entire global energy market goes into shock. Prices spike, supply chains collapse, industrial economies that rely on imported energy start grinding to a halt. And here is the part that makes this a nightmare for the United States and its allies. Geography does not treat both sides equally. On the Gulf side, you have the oil-producing states: Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain. These countries are mostly flat. Desert terrain, open, exposed, their critical infrastructure, their oil fields, their pipelines, their desalination plants, their export terminals, all of it sits out in the open, visible, and vulnerable. Now look at the other side. On the Iranian side of the strait, you have mountains, massive, rugged mountain ranges that stretch along the entire coastline, and those mountains are not just scenery. They are natural fortresses. Iran has spent decades embedding missile systems, drone launch sites, and military installations deep into those mountains, hidden, protected, nearly impossible to hit with conventional strikes. So what does that mean strategically? It means Iran can launch attacks against the Gulf from behind a wall of rock and stone. It can fire missiles at oil infrastructure, at shipping lanes, at desalination plants, and the defending side has an incredibly difficult time striking back effectively. Iran can project offensive power across the strait while sitting inside a defensive fortress. That is not a military advantage, that is a geographic gift. And it changes the entire calculus of this war. Because as long as Iran controls those mountain positions overlooking the strait, it holds the ability to threaten the single most important energy corridor on Earth. Geography is not just the backdrop of this conflict, geography is the weapon. Now let me hit you with the math, because this is the part that most people
go into the math. I'm going to show y'all this CNN report. This was this morning that I was telling you about, They was talking about how Iran have taken control of that strait, that strait that he was just talking about. So give me 1 minute. Let me pull that up. Yep.
Thai flagged ship, one of at least 3 vessels. New images near the Strait of Hormuz off Iran, where new attacks are now sending oil prices on another wild ride today. This is a Thai flagged ship, one of at least 3 vessels that have been struck today in that critical waterway. Thailand's Ministry of Transport says 20 crew members have been rescued. 3, though, remain unaccounted for. We're going to show you a map of the approximate locations of these attacks on ships today in the Strait. A reminder, some 20 million barrels of fuel a day move through this critical shipping route, and it is clearly effectively remains shut down because of this very real threat. Let's get right to Paula Hancock's live in Abu Dhabi for the latest on this. What are you hearing here?
Well, Kate, we just heard from the UN, the UK Maritime Agency, and they say that as of now, they believe that about 13 vessels have been impacted since this war started. Now, you mentioned that Thai-flagged ship. We have some more information on that as well from authorities. They said that there was an explosion at the stern and then a fire broke out in the engine room. Now, this is believed to be where those 3 missing sailors were on duty at the time. So 20 rescued by the Omani Navy. We know that the captain told the crew to evacuate. They got in lifeboats and were then saved, but 3 still missing at this point. So it is a great concern that Iran appears to be ratcheting up these attacks on vessels in the Strait of Hormuz and in these very critical waters. Now, one of the vessels we understand was a cargo vessel, so we're not just talking about the restrictions of oil getting to where it needs to here. There's a lot more that there are concerns of. Now, a quick look at what else has been happening since Iran has said that it's going to have its most intense and heaviest operation. We do appear to be seeing a fairly consistent retaliation across the Gulf nations. Here in the UAE, we have been hearing a number of different waves of interceptions. Dubai Airport, there were 2 drones that hit nearby. We understand that 4 people have been injured there, authorities saying in the vicinity of Dubai Airport that fell. Flights have started to take off again now, though. We also know that in Bahrain, in Kuwait, in Saudi Arabia, they have also seen interceptions and alerts over the past 24 hours. And Iran has also expanded, if you like, its target list. We are hearing from Iranian officials through state media that they say now offices and assets of major American tech companies with operations in the region would be considered a legitimate target. Now, clearly, there are many in this Gulf region. We also had an...
You hear what they said? Dubai, Saudi Arabia, all the very expensive luxury countries that... You remember he said they don't need to win those countries. They don't need to destroy those countries. They just need to make it uncomfortable where people are not steady paying America to either protect those companies or not visiting their companies where it's going to hurt them financially. And you heard her also say with the data, like he said, the data that Iran has their eye on striking databases there.
Interesting quote I want to bring to you from the Qatari Foreign Ministry spokesperson, saying that from day one they had warned that this could be the potential fallout of any military action in Iran. He said, quote, "This is the biggest I told you so in the history of I told you so's in the world." Clearly, there is frustration and anger among leaders in this region. Kate.
Very clearly. Paula Hancock, thank you so much, Paula, for bringing us all of those new headlines. I really appreciate it.
The geography is extremely well known and understood. And perhaps because of that, the risks currently being faced are so severe. Take, for example, Maersk Shipping, which has got at least 10 ships that it says stranded in the northern part of the Strait of Hormuz, and many more on the outside that it can't get in or out because obviously the waterway is so difficult. In addition, they are refusing to send now ships up through into the Red Sea because of the possibilities of the Houthis and the risks around Yemen.
And that's everything that he predicted. The Strait of Hormuz, if they take that, then they can't send the ships are now saying, no, we're not going that way. They didn't took the Strait of Hormuz. We're not sending our ships that way. But then they also afraid to send it the other way because they may have help. Iran have help from other people that if they try to send it the other way, they're afraid they're going to lose their ships that way as well.
As a result, something like Maersk is saying the current situation is absolutely uncharted and unprecedented.
Listen, it's called Connect Team, and it's...
Yeah, so I was just showing y'all that was the news for today and what's happening today.
Some of the hubs on which global trade does rely on are actually being affected, are being closed by the situation right now. It's true from Jebel Ali, it's true for Abu Dhabi, it's true for a few of those hubs, and this is going to create ripple effect, I think, for a while as we need to see how this is going to sort itself out. In the short run, we can manage this, but if this was to endure, this would create, I think, serious congestions and serious issues across the global supply chain.
What happens next is anybody's guess. The very idea that this area is being mined by the Iranians, or indeed that the US is going in and starting to attack those various rubber dinghies and ships that's doing the mines, it's simply unheard of, and frankly, we don't know how it will develop. The only thing we can say with any degree of certainty is that as long as that waterway remains closed, then the price of oil just keeps rising.
Oh, have mercy.
Richard Quest, CNN, London.
With us now, CNN national security analyst Beth Sanner, and with us, CNN military analyst, retired Colonel Cedric Leighton. And Beth, I just want to start with the latest news from what we've been seeing inside the Strait of Hormuz. This is one of the cargo vessels that's been hit. This is a new image we're getting in. Yeah. You can see the smoke coming out of that. It is one of 3 vessels hit, 1, 2, 3 over the last 12 hours or so. So what does this tell you? If the Iranians are doing this to ships in this key shipping lane, what does it tell you about what they're capable of and what their plans are?
So what we're seeing now, so we started off with this idea yesterday that they were going to start putting mines in. And I think that we have to understand here that mines are part of a system, right? So it's mines, drones, rockets, missiles, right? And so in this very small area, and the only place that you can pass here is really only 2 miles, not 20 miles. And so when you have this much concentration, what the Iranians are telling us is like, we're in, right? This is now, they have made a decision that they are shutting their own access here by laying these mines. They're shutting themselves in, essentially, and it's worth it for them. So they're all in now.
One of the things that been saying in the papers this morning is the Iranians are showing they have a vote in all of this. And just to give you one more sense of what this is, them shutting down the waterway, you can see ships here on one end of the strait, ships here on one end of the strait. But by and large, this area here, this most narrow area, 20 miles wide, but the shipping lane itself really just 2 miles, that all but empty. Cedric, I want to go to you with one other.
So what she pretty much said that they serious because they like, fuck, if we can't get our shit through, as long as y'all can't get y'all shit through, we'll sacrifice it. We'll do it. As long as y'all can't get y'all shit through, we gonna create a whole blockade. Ain't nobody shit getting through here. That's what she's.
Development overnight. This is inside Iraq, right? Inside Iraq, a key U.S. diplomatic support center was struck overnight. I'll put it was right here. You can see it right here. What, again, does that tell you about what the Iranians have in mind and what they're still capable of?
Yeah, so John, good morning. What they're doing is they're actually looking at all the different important target sets. They've had a real opportunity to, in essence, case all these targets. They know exactly where our diplomatic facilities are. They know where some of our CIA facilities are. They know where our military facilities are. And the reason they're doing this is their way asymmetrically of going after us. You know, on the one hand, we measure things like number of aircraft taken out. We measure things like number of vessels taken out and how many we've put to the bottom of the Persian Gulf. That's all great. But the problem is the Iranians are fighting with other means. And as Beth was pointing out, they are using things like drones, missiles, and mines to take that asymmetric effort forward. And in some cases, they have an asymmetric advantage. And so going after, areas like logistics centers like they did in Kuwait, going after Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia, and going after that diplomatic support center in Baghdad is exactly part of the Iranian playbook.
And as they try to show, go ahead, Beth.
Yeah, so what I want to add to that, and I think, Cedric, you can jump in and disagree if I'm wrong here, but I mean, it's very, very likely that this was done by Iranian-backed militias that are Iraqis, right? We have not seen them join the fight. We have Hezbollah committing suicide in Lebanon, literally because, Israel is beating the crap out of them. And now we have Iraq joining in. Are we going to have Yemen join in? Are we going to have the Houthis join into this fight, which would, move us to the Red Sea? They haven't done that yet because it's not exactly in their interest right now to draw fire. They're kind of on their back heels right now domestically. But this is, again, an expansion of the war that we were kind of waiting for. It hasn't happened, but maybe this is it.
Cedric.
So what she's saying is that the base that got hit in Iraq, they thinking that it's possible that it's Iranians who did that. That is not Iranians, that it's the people there. They have joined with Iranians and they are taking out the base that's in their country, that's the US base. So they are having allies now. It's what is being assumed. So they're saying that not everybody have joined who they think will join them, but it's looking like some have, which is mean that the war is being expanded. It ain't just U.S. and Israel against Iran. Iran is now got they cousins and stuff. Then came over. Y'all, I try to make a light of it to smile about something, because this, if you look at it and all you're doing is worrying, yeah, we should worry, but I always say the richest make war, we die in them. The poor, the middle class, the working class, we're the one who die in these wars. And somebody brought up a very good point that the 20-year-old, the first 4 who end up the U.S. soldiers who lost their life, the first 4, one of them was a 20-year-old. And they were saying that none of Trump family, none of his sons are signed up for the army. He has a son that's 20 who's finna celebrate his 21st birthday. Let's see if any of your kids are going to sign up for the army. I forgot, it's a senator from South Carolina, North Carolina, a Republican senator who just gave a speech. And he was like, yeah, I'm finna go back to North Carolina, but you guys need to send your sons and daughters over to fight for this war. And he's gonna go back home. No, I am sending positivity, good vibes, and condolences, because it seems like a shit show on both sides. And anytime there's a war, and whether you want to call it a war or not, innocent lives are going to be lost.
We go back to the Straits.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cedric. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. What I was going to say is, Beth is right. And I think we need to look at the possibility that the Houthis will get involved at some point in time. And that would then mean that 2 different choke points the Persian Gulf choke point, at the Strait of Hormuz, and the Bab el-Mandeb, who, as the Red Sea empties into the Indian Ocean. That is the kind of area that we actually could see some efforts, and that is something where the proxies, just like Beth said in Iraq, the proxies are going to play a role in this, and this is definitely an expansion of the effort, and the Iranians are controlling that narrative along with their proxies, of course.
Yeah, just so you can see what we're talking about regionally, this is the Strait of Hormuz. This would be the Red Sea right here. The Houthis operating right here, perhaps shutting down some of the shipping in and out of that region. One other thing, we were talking about the mines, right? The idea, CNN was reporting that that Iran may be laying mines in the Red Sea. Then CENTCOM, in the Strait of Hormuz. Then CENTCOM released this video they say is of U.S. warplanes and missiles striking the Iranian mine-laying ships. Is this enough to disable them? I think the Iranians have, 5,000 mines that they could use? Would this be enough to stop efforts to mine the straits?
I mean, it's obviously, it helps, but I mean, we're talking about 1,000-mile coastline, and we're talking about a capacity of Iran to use all manner of ships, dhows, things that look like fishing ships. Yeah, you can't do that at scale, but you can certainly throw one or two over the back of the boat, and no one will know that. It's very, very hard to track down these very small vessels that can lay mines. So I think it's kind of whack-a-mole, and we've only whacked, one mole. I mean, it's not a lot.
Just so people say, the 1,000 miles of coastline here, this is all Iran, inside the strait, inside the Gulf itself, and then outside. And there are some reports the Iranians have been able to ship some oil out of the parts that are already outside the strait. Beth Sander, Cedric Layton, this has been great. Thank you both.
So you see that coastline, what she said was that, what they said was that they are now sending out media. They're showing this to people. They're saying, oh yeah, they did the mines, they got some of the boats stuck, but don't worry, we done took out their ships that does this mining. She's saying no, they have thousands and thousands and thousands of ships that they have out that could do the mining. Some of them are so small that they're not going to get picked up by the radar, where you can send in air missiles to knock them out. And they have been, preparing for this for 20 years. So let's continue on, because this was what the professor was just talking about. Now he's going to move on to the cost of this war, and why there's an advantage on Iranian side. Now, like I said, I'm not showing you guys this because I agree. I'm not showing you this because I want America to lose. I am an American that's in America. But I found it interesting, and I wanted to know, what do you guys think about it?
People completely overlook, and honestly, it might be the most important part of this entire conflict. We are used to thinking about military power in terms of technology. Who has the best jets? Who has the most advanced missile defense systems? Who has the biggest satellites, the smartest bombs, the most sophisticated hardware? And for decades, that is exactly how the game worked. The United States built the most technologically advanced military the world has ever seen. Stealth bombers, aircraft carriers, multi-billion-dollar defense systems. The assumption was simple. If you have the most advanced technology, you dominate the battlefield. End of story. But this war is flipping that assumption on its head. Here is what is actually happening. Iran is producing drones that cost roughly $50,000 each. Some cost even less. These are relatively simple machines. They carry a small explosive payload. They can be launched from hundreds of kilometers away. They are not sophisticated. They do not need to be. Now, in order to stop one of these drones, the defending side has to fire an interceptor missile. And that interceptor missile can cost anywhere from $1 million to $10 million, sometimes even more, depending on the system being used. So do the math. The attacker spends $50,000. The defender spends $10 million. The attacker is spending a fraction of a penny for every dollar the defender spends. And it gets worse. In many cases, the defending side does not fire just one interceptor at each incoming target. Sometimes they fire 2, sometimes 5. There have been reported instances where 10 or even 11 interceptors were launched at a single incoming missile or drone. 11 interceptors at $10 million each against a target worth $50,000. That is over $100 million spent to stop a $50,000 weapon. Now scale that up. Imagine hundreds of these drones being launched. Imagine thousands over the course of a prolonged conflict. Every single engagement is a financial victory for the attacker and a financial hemorrhage for the defender. Over time, interceptor stockpiles start running low. Supply chains cannot keep up. The defense industry, which was designed to build small numbers of extremely expensive weapons, cannot suddenly switch to mass production of cheap interceptors. The entire military doctrine, the entire economic model of warfare that the United States has operated under since the Cold War starts to buckle under the weight of this asymmetry. And here is the deeper consequence that no one is talking about. For decades, there has been a global perception that American military power is unchallengeable. After the Soviet Union collapsed, the world believed that no one could seriously threaten the United States military. That belief was not just a matter of pride, it was a strategic asset. Countries aligned themselves with America partly because they believed its military shield was impenetrable. Investors poured money into American protected regions because they trusted that shield. The entire global order was built in part on the perception of American military invincibility. But what happens when cheap drones start punching holes in that perception? What happens when the math stops working? What happens when the world watches a $50,000 weapon neutralize a $10 million defense system on live television? The perception cracks. And when perceptions crack, everything built on top of them starts to shake. And now, here is the part no one is talking about. Let me tell you about the vulnerability that nobody talks about when they discuss the wealthy Gulf states. Because when most people think about countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, or Bahrain, they think about skyscrapers, they think about luxury, they think about some of the richest cities on the planet dripping with gold and glass and excess, and all of that is real. These are incredibly wealthy nations, but underneath that wealth, there is a vulnerability so basic, so fundamental, that it could bring entire cities to their knees in a matter of days. That vulnerability is water. Think about where these countries are located. They are in the middle of a desert, some of the hottest, driest land on Earth. There are no major rivers running through most of these nations. There are no massive freshwater lakes. Natural water resources are extremely limited. So how do cities with millions of people survive in the desert? They survive because of desalination plants. These are massive industrial facilities that take salt water from the sea and process it into fresh drinking water. In many Gulf countries, these plants supply over 60% of all available drinking water. In some cases, even more. Without them, these cities do not just struggle, they collapse. Millions of people would face immediate, life-threatening water shortages within days. Now think about what that means in the context of a war.
So let's break that down to layman's term. What he's saying is these big luxury Dubai and all that you see, all these skyscrapers, that you go in there and you see the luxury hotels, the luxury apartments. That at the end of the day, you got to remember that these cities, the reason why the oil is there is because it was just desert. It was just dry land. They built on top of a desert. They're surrounded by nothing. They don't have access to water. Even where the oil companies, where they're pumping the oil at, they don't have access to water. They get water pretty much imported in. So one of the big things is that if they take out the water supply, these cities will not be able to make it without their water supply, because they take out the company that bringing the water in, or the pipes that's bringing the water from the sea, from the ocean, from the lake, whatever, to these desert cities, these rich cities that you never even think, oh, this is a desert. What happens once you take out their water. That's what this is pretty much talking about.
Desalination plant is a fixed target. It cannot be moved. It cannot be hidden. It sits right there on the coastline, requiring enormous amounts of energy to operate, completely exposed to missile or drone strikes. A single successful attack on one of these facilities could cut water production for millions of people overnight. Even temporary damage, even a disruption lasting just a few weeks, would create panic on a scale that is hard to imagine. And water is just one piece of the puzzle. Oil fields are spread across vast stretches of open desert. Pipelines run for for hundreds of kilometers with minimal protection. Export terminals sit on the coast, fully visible from satellite imagery. Protecting every single piece of this infrastructure across thousands of square kilometers of flat, exposed terrain is practically impossible. You would need an air defense system the size of a small country just to cover it all. But here is the thing that makes this strategy so effective. The goal is not necessarily to destroy all of this infrastructure permanently. The goal is to create uncertainty, because uncertainty is its own weapon. The moment a single drone strikes an oil facility, global energy markets react. Prices spike. Insurance companies raise their rates for every cargo ship in the region. Shipping companies start rerouting their vessels. Investors start pulling their money. Businesses start reconsidering whether the Gulf is.
And this is true even without the strike happening. As you can see, Trump will make a post that says that this war won't last long. Oil prices will go down. And then it'd be like, oh, well, we may have to put boots on the ground. Oil prices will skyrocket. So I'm just using that as an example, and that's without attack.
Really the safe, stable place they were told it was. Even the possibility of an attack, even the perception of risk is enough to cause billions of dollars in economic damage. You do not need to destroy the system. You just need to make people doubt it. And doubt, once it starts spreading, is almost impossible to stop. Now, let me introduce you to a concept that is going to help you understand exactly where this conflict is headed. In strategic studies, there is a model called the game of chicken, and it works like this. Imagine two drivers in two cars racing directly toward each other at full speed on a straight road. The rules are simple. The driver who swerves first loses. They are called the chicken. But if neither driver swerves, both cars crash head on and both drivers are destroyed. The entire game is a test of nerve, a test of who is willing to take the bigger risk, a test of who blinks first. Now apply that model to the current conflict. On one side, you have Iran with its ability to threaten the Strait of Hormuz, to launch drones and missiles at Gulf infrastructure, and to destabilize the entire energy market. On the other side, you have the United States and its allies with the ability to strike Iranian infrastructure, target its energy production, hit its electricity grid, and damage its water systems. Both sides possess the ability to inflict catastrophic economic damage on the other. Both sides know this, and both sides are accelerating toward each other. The problem with a game of chicken is that escalation becomes self-reinforcing. Every strike demands a response. Every response demands an even bigger counter-response. Neither side can afford to look weak because looking weak invites more aggression. So each side keeps pushing, keeps escalating, keeps demonstrating that they are willing to endure more pain than the other. And with every round of escalation, the stakes get higher. The damage gets worse. The off-ramps get narrower. But here is the truly terrifying part. Miscalculation is always possible. In fact, in situations like this, miscalculation is almost inevitable. Yep. Leaders on both sides are making decisions based on assumptions about what the other side will do. They assume the other side has a breaking point. They assume the other side will eventually decide the cost is too high and back down. But what happens?
See, where he just said each side has an assumption. The last thing that I have heard was that the whole reason for going into Israel is the assumption, for going for the U.S. going into Iran was the assumption that Israel was going to attack Iran, and Iran, to retaliate, was going to attack U.S. embassy, U.S. bases, and things like that in the Middle East. That was the assumption that was made. So they said we got to get them before they get us. That's the last thing. I don't know if it changed by now because it's that been like 2 days. So I don't, ain't no telling what it is right now.
When that assumption is wrong? What happens when both sides believe the other will swerve first and neither one does? That is how conflicts spiral beyond anyone's original intention. That is how limited wars become unlimited ones. That is how economic pressure turns into full-scale infrastructure destruction. And that is where it gets really dangerous. Now, here is the uncomfortable conversation that policymakers in Washington do not want to have, but eventually will be forced to have. If the strategic objective of this conflict is to permanently neutralize the threat posed by Iran, then air power alone is almost certainly not going to achieve that. And this is not speculation. This is history. If you study every major conflict where one country attempted to force regime change on another through airstrikes alone, the pattern is clear. Bombing campaigns can destroy infrastructure, they can weaken military forces, they can create enormous economic pressure and suffering, but they almost never produce full political collapse by themselves. If the goal is to actually change the government of a country like Iran, history tells us that it almost always requires boots on the ground, ground forces, occupation, and that is where everything gets incredibly complicated. Because right now, there is virtually zero appetite among the American public for another large-scale ground war in the Middle East. After decades of military involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan, after trillions of dollars spent and thousands of lives lost, the American people are exhausted. The idea of sending ground troops into Iran, a country far larger and...
Look, we are exhausted. We are tired. Baby, we are sick inside. Do you hear me?
I am sick. I am sick, sick of your shit. And when I'm not sick, I'm tired. I am sick and tired.
Far more geographically difficult than Iraq, is politically toxic. No administration wants to be the one to propose it. No politician wants to campaign on it. But here is the tension. The Gulf allies, the countries whose entire economies depend on the stability of the petrodollar system, are watching their financial foundations come under attack. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, these nations are seeing missiles fly over their cities. Drones threaten their infrastructure, and investors question their safety. And they are turning to Washington and saying, "You promised to protect us. You gave us a deal. We sell oil in your currency, and you keep us safe. So what are you going to do about this?" That pressure is real, it is growing, and it puts American policymakers in an impossible position. And even if the decision were made to escalate to a ground campaign, the geography of Iran makes it a nightmare scenario. This is not flat desert like Iraq.
And I don't want you. No, I don't want you. I don't want you. I don't want you. I don't want you. I don't want you.
That's what they over there telling America. That's what they over there. The oil company is now at Congress. That's what they telling them right now.
Iran is dominated by mountain ranges that provide natural defensive cover across enormous stretches of territory. Missile systems and military installations are embedded deep inside mountains, hardened against airstrikes, and nearly impossible to reach without a massive ground operation. The terrain itself becomes a weapon of defense. Iran does not need to match America, plane for plane or tank for tank. It just needs to make the cost of invasion so high that no rational leader would attempt it. Meanwhile, both sides have the...
But I'm like, no rational leader. Y'all can say what you want, okay? But in my opinion, we do not have a rational leader right now. Because if we had a rational leader, he would have listened to everybody and not went his ass over there in the first place. So he said no rational leader will want to weigh that cost. But I mean, we don't have a rational leader, so I don't know what's going to happen.
Ability to target each other's civilian infrastructure, electricity grids, water systems, transportation networks, industrial facilities, all of it becomes part of the strategic landscape. This is not a war confined to military bases anymore. It is a war about which society can absorb more damage, which population can endure more suffering, and which economy can survive more disruption. And that makes it one of the most dangerous types of conflict imaginable.
And then I know y'all remember Trump's speech when the first soldiers died. And he was just like, yeah, there are going to be more. So the cost of the lives that we're going to lose, I don't think that pretty much play a part in the equation on whether or not you're going to end this unwar. Like in that game of chicken that he described, who thinks that Trump is going to turn the wheel? In the game of chicken, are these leaders the ones the driving and the American people out of vehicle that if it crashes, nobody turns? If it's crashed, we the one who's going to be like messed up from it? Because like, I don't even think in that technical game of chicken, they're not even the drivers. It's a remote control car. that they have control of. And we, the American people, are the cars. And the Israel and Iran, we are the cars. We're the vehicle that they're running 100 miles at each other. And all they got to do is sit there and control the remotes with no consequences as far as personal consequences. Your son's not in the service. Your daughters are not in the service. You're not losing anyone close to you. You rather take that risk in order to benefit your financial backers than to trump the chicken out. I mean, he do say a lot of that doesn't follow through, but do y'all think he's going to follow through with this? Because I want to say today there's been dog whistles that people are saying that they may use nuclear power against Iran in order to just dead it all, because it ain't going the way that they thought it was going to go. And I pray that that is not what's in the cards and that is not what's to come. But this year has been a bunch of what's the wildest thing you could think could happen that you think can't happen? That's probably what's going to happen. So let's hope not, but let me finish.
So let me bring this full circle. Because everything we have talked about, the petrodollar system, the vulnerabilities, the Strait of Hormuz, the cost asymmetry of drones versus interceptors, the game of chicken escalation dynamics, all of it points to one outcome that should concern every single person watching this. The petrodollar system, the invisible engine that has kept the United States at the center of the global economy for over 50 years, is being stress tested in ways we have never seen before. And here's the thing about systems built on confidence. They work perfectly as long as everyone believes they will keep working. Oil keeps getting traded in dollars. Countries keep holding dollar reserves. Investments keep flowing through the same channels. Everyone trusts the system, so everyone keeps participating in it. It is a self-reinforcing cycle. But confidence is fragile. The moment major disruptions start shaking that confidence, the moment countries start wondering whether the Gulf is really stable, whether American military protection is really reliable, whether the dollar is really the safest currency to hold, that is when the cracks start appearing. And once the cracks appear, they spread fast. Countries begin exploring alternatives. Maybe they start trading oil in other currencies. Maybe they build new financial arrangements with China or Russia or regional blocs. Maybe they create new alliances that reduce their dependence on the dollar entirely. This is what people mean when they talk about a multipolar world. Instead of one dominant financial system centered around one currency and one superpower, the global economy starts fragmenting into multiple centers of power. Different regions build their own economic networks, their own financial institutions, their own strategic partnerships. Now, will that actually happen? Will the petrodollar system actually break? Honestly, no one knows for certain. Wars never unfold exactly as anyone predicts. Diplomatic breakthroughs can change the trajectory overnight. Economic adjustments can absorb some of the shock. Internal political changes on either side can alter the entire equation. But what this conflict has already done, what it has already proven, is something that cannot be undone. It has shown the world that the systems we all assumed were unshakable, the systems that seemed permanent and invincible, are now being tested. They are under pressure. They are vulnerable. And that revelation alone, regardless of how this war ends, has already changed the way nations think about the future of global power. So here's what I want to leave you with. If the systems that have governed the global economy for the last 50 years are now under real, measurable, visible pressure, the question is not whether things will change. The question is, what comes next? Will the existing order adapt and survive the way it has survived previous crises? Or are we watching the early stages of a complete restructuring of global power? Will the dollar remain the world's reserve currency for another 50 years? Or will new systems, new currencies, new alliances begin to take its place? These are not hypothetical questions anymore. They are playing out in real time right now on the battlefields and in the financial markets and in the diplomatic backrooms of the most powerful nations on earth. And the reason I make these videos is because I believe that understanding these forces, understanding the game theory and the geography and the economics behind the headlines is what separates people who actually understand the world from people who just watch the news and react. If you are the kind of person who wants to think deeper, who wants to see beneath the surface, then you are in the right place. Subscribe to this channel, drop a comment below, tell me what you think. Do you believe the petrodollar system can survive this? Or do you think we are witnessing the beginning of something entirely new? I genuinely want to hear your perspective because conversations like this are how we make sense of a world that is changing faster than most people realize. I will see you in the next one.
So that is that video. As I said, this is Professor Jiang. And it's Jiang Explains. That's his YouTube channel.
I'm with Anthony Driver.
That's his YouTube channel. You can subscribe to his channel. I found what he said very interesting, and I thought it would be something that we can talk about, and to have us thinking about something more than just what we see on the news and another perspective. And like I said, he had made 3 predictions, 2 came true. So we are all living in the third one to see what is going to happen. And I remain hopeful that we will somehow find peace in the Middle East. I feel like we've been saying peace in the Middle East since my grandmama was young, and she 86. So y'all stay safe out there. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what y'all think about this. What y'all think about anything that we talked about today. This whole war, unwar. Do you think it's a war before I call it a war? This whole unwar. As far as the petrodollars, do you think that the US dollar will use its value with the other companies start, because the US been in wars before and they didn't, switch over to another currency. I'm getting sleepy and the words are starting to slur. But thank y'all for tuning in. This was almost a 2-hour video. I put in the work, but I wanted y'all to really see everything and really like connect the dots. Me watching it, I was just like, wow. And I just wanted y'all to all connect the dots and go on that journey with me. So hopefully y'all understood it all and, caught the drift and was right with me, learning new things. And it put in the comments, what did y'all learn anything new? Have y'all seen anything? Did I show you anything that you haven't seen? And if there's something that you want me to know about, everything that I went over, everything that we went over today, there's still things that I probably didn't even, this ain't even the tip of the iceberg probably here. If you want to tell me other things that we can drop down and discuss in another video, let me know. Give me the suggestions. Show me some videos and I'll bring those up as well. Okay? Y'all try to stay safe out here. I pray that everybody stay safe out here. My daughter just had her first volleyball game, y'all. They won. So congratulations. Go Lions. My other daughter is going to go. She's going over to Japan next week. I got one more week. My computer trying to shut down. It's telling me it's time to go. Have a good night, y'all. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hopefully y'all can hear me. I can't tell. Have a good night. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on all social media. Tootie Talk Sense, no spaces. Send good energy, good vibes. Send up prayers if you do it, y'all. Y'all be safe. Bye.